What's up? Good morning, everybody. Monday, February 24th. Is the Bitcoin and crypto bull run canceled? Is this just ultimate chop? Are we actually going to see upside anytime in the near future? What is the Bitcoin price going to do next? What are the altcoins going to do? We've got Kevin Svensson and Matthew Highland that will be on today's stream. So everybody get active in the live chat. Let me know how you're doing. I'm back in the studio. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin, altcoins, crypto signals. What is coming next? What levels do we need to watch? What data points do we need to be paying attention to? I'm just getting this retweeted out, shared over on the @Academy BitLab Twitter from the @Kelly Kellum page. With that being said, everybody, are you ready to get into it? I want to see some live responses here in the live chat. I got it all pulled up, got all my screens. Let's go ahead and jump into this because this market is still giving us that opportunity, but it's starting to feel a little scary. Is this exactly what they want before we actually get the move? Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Back in office, looking at the charts. What is going on? Apparently, nothing's changed whatsoever. We're seeing, interestingly, I noticed this parallel channel that we have that we obviously broke all way down from all the way down to this 15.5 sort of level at the market cycle bottom. But where we're at right now, interestingly, you look at this peak projected out to where we're at right now. And you notice this is exactly where we rejected twice on this exact sort of projected trend line. And everything is still looking like we're in the exact same range as we have been in. Of course, there's been a lot of news that has come out over the last couple of days. We've got to talk about it. So before we jump in with this, I just wanted to highlight a couple things. First off, we're seeing the Bitcoin price action and the crypto market price action now breaking down a little bit from that 3.22, 3.25, $3.17 trillion market cap. And we're seeing it down here now at 3.1. Are we doomed for lower price action? Well, before we really dive into all that, I just wanted to say a couple words. Right now, whether you're talking about trading in the markets, whether you're talking about life, whether you're talking about anything that you're working towards, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling lost, if you're feeling ultimately like you want to give up, realize at the same time, you can choose where you put your mind's focus. Life, happiness, healing, everything that we do in this life all comes down to what our viewpoint is in this world. So find some gratitude, find some peace in your heart, find the things that you're thankful for that you become complacent on, whether you're alive, whether you have both your arms and hands and legs and feet, you're breathing, you're waking up, you have friends, you have family. What are you focusing on? If ultimately everything is self-victimization, then life is overwhelmingly tough and it's a struggle. But even in those moments, those tend to be the opportunities that arise in those moments when you shift your focus to what you're grateful for and ask yourself, what are my action plans? What is my next step to move myself towards the things I want to have happen positively in my life? When we focus on those sorts of things rather than this self-victimization, perpetual cycle of fear and loss and then we get more of that. We get more of what we focus on. So with that being said, let's jump into the show because we got a lot of things to talk about. And everybody, if this is your first time here, I can guarantee you it's not going to be your last time. Welcome to the BitLab Academy. My name's Kelly Kellum. Thank you to all our channel partners here, CoinW, NordVPN, and Arculus. On that note, I do want to also highlight, we had some major issues last week that really scared a lot of people in the market with that massive hack that came out of Bybit. And when we talk about that massive hack coming out of Bybit, I just want you to realize over $1.5 billion worth of Ethereum was hacked. And, now Ben Zhao from Bybit himself talks about them getting back to where they filled that gap that they had in their balances, their treasury, to cover everything to one. But this is a further example of why you need to make sure, no matter how big an exchange is, the only smart thing that you can do, that you need to make sure that you can do, that you have control over, is making sure you have some form of cold storage so you can protect your crypto. I'm telling you, this is one of the most important things you can do in this space. We've seen it in the last cycle with the cascading failures, everything from Voyager. We saw also FTX, BlockFi, and the list just went on and on with these massive exchanges and massive, basically custody centralized custody services and DeFi lenders and all these different protocols where so many people got wrecked because they did not protect themselves with cold storage. So with that being said, thank you to our partner. I do think it is one of the best crypto cold storage solutions out there, and that is Arculus. Head over to getarculus.com. Use code BitLab, BITLAB 20, BitLab 20 for 20% off to make sure that you are protecting yourself. Because if even right now, when we're in a very strong bull market, it doesn't feel like it, but we're seeing the price action trading sideways. Even in these moments, we're seeing these issues with hacks, with different potential issues within the space of, as we saw last cycle with all those different failures. You want to make sure you're protecting yourself. So head over to getarculus.com, use code BitLab20 for 20% off to make sure you are protecting your crypto and protecting your future. Now, with that being said, we got our boys in the wings here. Let me go ahead and set their assignments. You are guest 2, and let me see. Hold on one second. We got our boys in the wings. Guest 3, and coming back over here. Here we go. Wait, no, it's guest 1 and 2. My bad. Hold on one second. We only got Matthew here. Guest 2. There we go. What? No, come on. Guest 1. There we go. Sorry, all these assignments and everything. Guest 2. There we go. How my boys doing, man? I missed you guys last week.
What's up, Kelly? How are you?
You know what? The bull market's canceled. We're selling everything. We're moving to penny stocks, and we're going to only be trading, high frequency trades on Etsy. Or is this just a fake out, and that we should have a little bit more hope that maybe Miss Max capitulation,
your camera's frozen,
frustration is starting to get towards that moment where, hey, we're going to start to see some upside. What are you thinking here?
Sorry, my camera's just frozen, but I'm back.
We're back. Give it to us.
So I didn't hear much of your question, but what basically, what do you think? What do I think is going to happen with the market? Or
yeah,
I mean, right now Bitcoin is really just sideways. Yeah, we dipped today. There was a red candle, whatever, right? But ultimately, the price of Bitcoin has had no significant change really until, or since November. There's been no significant change. We've had big pumps, big dumps, no significant change. So it's very much just sideways. And as of right now, I find the market to be pretty stable and neutral. That's for Bitcoin, right? Obviously, the altcoins, it's a little bit of a different story. In the long term, if you're just looking at Bitcoin, well, it looks pretty bullish overall. Like the trend, if the trend is your friend, well, then it's an uptrend, and you should be biased towards the bullish side, despite what short-term dips could occur, right? Bitcoin could, in theory, let's say something bad happens in the stock market or whatever. Yeah, Bitcoin could dip into a lower low into the 80s. Sure, that's possible. That's not necessarily what I expect, but still, that is just yet another macro higher low within a very long-term parabolic trend. And I was just talking to some of my Discord members earlier, and somebody brought up a very interesting point. And that is that if you look at Bitcoin in the very long term, and you look at every January, what does January almost always mark? It almost always marks, it's almost a 100% hit rate, except for COVID, right? So I can just move this down for a second. It marks a yearly high or a yearly low. So January, the ones that are highlighted in green, mark a yearly low. That January was the yearly low. And then the red ones mark that where January was the yearly high. So basically, just to reiterate, there's a very high hit rate of January being the yearly high or the yearly low. And there's only been one time really that it didn't work out, which was COVID. But if we just sort of exclude the COVID dip and just assume that January was the yearly low, right? Then basically what you get is a very interesting pattern where you have in 2011, so yearly low, January yearly high. And then it goes 2014, January is the yearly low, January is the yearly low, January is the yearly low into 2016, 2017, and then January is the yearly high in 2018. So it's green, 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 red, green, 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 red, green, 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 question mark, where we are now, the third January in this series. Here there was two, lower market cap, less time, pumps a little quicker. But since 2014, we've seen this pattern of 3 Januaries in a row that are the yearly low, followed by the peak. 3 Januaries in a row that are the yearly low, followed by the peak. Here it was really sideways, but that January was the low of that year. And so here we are once again. Now we just passed the third January, and if this pattern continues, it means that this year will be bullish, and that the current January that we just had is the yearly low zone, and we're looking for continuation into the end of the year. So this is a very consistent, it seems to be a pretty consistent outcome. If you just give a little bit of leeway for the COVID dip and just say, you know what, that was an anomaly, you can see that the pattern is pretty flawless.
Yeah, I like that. The regularity there definitely speaks volumes. I'm kind of wondering if we saw a sort of hint last year when we had 7-month sideways price action. And I think last time we got on about 2 weeks ago, all of us discussed the potential of, we have all this bullishness and it feels like it's just going to go up. But at the same time, I mean, this is a pretty major market cap with bigger and bigger players entering daily, in the substantiation of not only banks and potential Bitcoin reserves, but also even today, I saw just before we went live, Citadel, which is a massive, basically securities brokerage and liquidity firm, is basically now acknowledged that they're going to start providing liquidity for Bitcoin and crypto markets. And we've all seen how that played out with what happened with GameStop and how they were basically just out there, I don't want to say fixing markets, but definitely pushing markets around for the benefit of the big players. Are we going to see a lot of chop before the pressure just builds and the market just absolutely rockets? I'm not really sure, but Matthew, what are you seeing here? I actually, before we keep going, I do want to also highlight everybody, as all of our homeboys just popped in here. Make sure you're heading over to the @KellyKellum page and hitting that retweet, hitting this like button. If we get over, let's say if we get over 30 retweets, I will do a giveaway today. Let everybody know what's going on here. We got the OGs in the house, so let's make sure that we can get it out to all our friends and family so they can see the analysis from the top analysts in the space, I do believe. Now, throwing back over to Mr. Matthew Hyland, what are you seeing? What are you feeling?
So, like Kevin said, I think the Bitcoin structure is pretty strong overall. This is like just great structure for Bitcoin. And really the big question, I guess, most people, will have is how long will this consolidation play out for? And we don't really know, right? It could end up breaking out sooner. It could end up consolidating for a longer period. If you go back to the last 2 years, we did see some sort of consolidation in quarter 1. This was 2023. We had this consolidation and then the move up before the longer consolidation. And then last year, it was the same thing from November to approximately February. Beginning of February, we had this consolidation here, and then we moved up and then had the long consolidation. So at this point, this consolidation is longer than these two consolidations that we had in 2023 and 2024. But it's still in that window where it could still make a move up before possibly going into a longer consolidation. But there is something that's interesting. Someone had asked me on my Patreon. They said, hey, the weekly MACD had crossed down recently. And I look back, and historically, or over the last few years, the last few times it has crossed down has been at the start of these consolidation periods. So if you look back here, this was in June of 2023. This was during this 7 or 6 month consolidation. And then we had this cross last year. And this was about a month or so into this long consolidation. So that could suggest that maybe this consolidation that we are now currently in, we're about 3 months into this now. This started in November essentially, might be one of the longer ones, right? Maybe we are in for one of these longer consolidations for Bitcoin, perhaps at this point. I think Bitcoin has a lot of support here. Even if it broke down, the structure would still be fine. Like Kevin said, over the past 3 years, every single time it's consolidated, it's pretty much held these lows for the most part. Last year during the summer, it did kind of go below, but it quickly reclaimed these. So even if this broke down, I think it would reclaim it. So Bitcoin structure really is just, bullish, looks good and everything else. But then everyone is wondering about the altcoins, right? And the altcoins, it's a completely different story across the board. There are a few altcoins that have gone up or have shown some strength, but most of them, even the ones that had some strength, like over the past few months, back in January, their structure looked really good, are now breaking down. There's a few like Algorand, Chainlink. They've started to break down. They've started to lose their strength. So really, there's no altcoins except a few that have maintained their strength. Sui and Solana went up a lot and have maintained their strength, but even Solana now, if you look at the Solana chart, kind of breaking down out of this structure, right? And this is looking, at least to me, this is a head and shoulders pattern. I was posting about this on Twitter. I think the market is almost waiting for Solana now to find some sort of bottom or invalidate this. So if it can come back up and break back above this resistance area that it broke below, this was around $173, $175, it could then invalidate it. But I do think the altcoin market is under pressure essentially right here until Solana finds a bottom. And the breakdown target for Solana is pretty steep. And I was posting about this last week, actually. So way before the breakdown even happened. So this isn't me just jumping on this chart and saying it's, going to nuke it. I was posting about up here around $180 that the breakdown target for this head and shoulders comes all the way down here. This is around approximately, oops, something got messed up here. It's around $105. Let me measure it from the high to the low right here. If you measure this target, the breakdown target is around almost $100 for Solana.
That's
steep.
right at the 382 on that sort of macro fib as well. So I have a line on my chart that's exactly right there too, 104.09. So that's spot on.
But Solana has a lot of support down here back at the August lows. And it wouldn't be crazy for Solana to go back to the August lows, considering Ethereum did the same thing already, and plenty of altcoins have already gone back down. So this could just be a case of the market waiting for Solana to make its move. For like the whole market's case, hopefully Solana finds some support here and bounces and then invalidates this breakdown. It does have support here, but it's currently below this, right? This is support. Could say this is support as well, this low from November. So it basically came back down to the November low. So it's really at a decision point. If it loses this, it's probably coming down to the August lows. But if it can hold here and validate this, then that would be a good sign, because Solana is one of the biggest coins. A lot of people hold Solana. So if Solana does go down, then a lot of people's portfolios are going to be in the red, which leads to people selling other coins or moving their positions around or not feeling comfortable or giving up on crypto in general. Et cetera, right? So a lot of my attention right now is to see what Solana is going to do, and then as well as Ethereum. So Ethereum, you look here. Let me remove this. Ethereum structure essentially is exactly the same currently as what it was in August. If you look right here, let me put this box over this area, and even the weekly candles. If you go to the weekly time frame, these candles are basically the same. You had the large wick and then two green candles push the resistance, and then getting rejected on this weekly candle. If you see that, it's identical. It's a red, two green candles that look pretty much exactly the same, actually. Look at these candles, and then a rejection right here. So I'd watch Ethereum too. If you go down to the daily time frame, let me remove this. Kind of has support here around 262. So we'd want to see this hold. And obviously we had this negative news story, and we've had a bunch of negative news stories over the past few weeks. I do think overall the bottom is probably in for most alts. That's what I've been saying since the capitulation low. I sent it out like within minutes of the capitulation back on February 1st or 2nd. And for the most part, it's held since then. There have been some alts like Solana that are now breaking lower, but in general, most things are above those lows or, at the lows, but they haven't broken lower. So it's really just at an inflection point. I think this week will kind of be telling in terms of the structure of the market. I do think March, I think the market has a chance to turn the corner over like the past, I don't even know how many months now. We keep dumping into the end of the month and then start to move up out of the month. And it's been like the same cycle. So I think we are under pressure for this week. and we're already starting to see it with the red today. But
oh, for sure,
yeah,
for sure. The one of the other things that I'm paying attention to, I know you definitely are, Kevin. I'm not sure if you are, Matt, but looking at the God dang it, my thing is always. I'm gonna switch screens so people can see my whole screen. I'll come back with both of you on here. But looking at what's going on with the S&P 500 and the correlation with Bitcoin. This is starting to look a bit like a rounding top, kind of a double top here. And the reason why I'm concerned with this at the moment is because we also have a huge week lined up. Where's it at? We have a huge week lined up. Where is it at? I might have closed it out. Hold on one second. Right here where we have Monday and Tuesday, Apple's annual shareholder meeting. Wednesday, we got NVIDIA. And then, the PCE coming out Thursday and Friday. All of these could have pretty, sort of, I don't want to say drastic, but pretty big impact on what's happening in the broader market, which kind of also is, being a pretty good indicator of risk on, risk off mentality with what's going on with Bitcoin. So if the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ and the traditional markets start to fall, this could put more pressure on this sort of risk narrative with what's going on. On the other hand, we also see the days since cycle bottom, and we're still within this window, the correlation of the last two cycles, but we're now getting to that level where this is starting to be right on track with what we saw in the 2017 cycle. Now, it's not, a guarantee that this also continues to go up here. This also could be a little bit extended where we kind of trade sideways for a little bit. Other than that, we do have a couple pretty strong bullish sort of support zones that if they do get breached, I think it start to scare the market, which is right here, the short-term holder cost basis, which is right about 92.4. We've got the 21-week moving average about 88. And then of course the 200-day moving average down here at the 80, which if we were to tap all the way down into this zone, would likely result in the price action also coming over here to the, where is it at? This, right, yeah, the CME futures gap, which is still yet to be filled down to 70, 78 to 80. Do I think we're going to get there? I don't know. If that does happen, I think that would result in a pretty strong sort of bounce. But at the same time, within the same window, we still have this sort of more broad, macro inverse head and shoulders with this exciting target up here at $125,000. But at the same time, this could come back all the way down and test this neckline, which would also result in clearing out that CME futures gap. So coming back over to you fellas, I know we got bullishness and bearishness in the charts. People are trying to make sense of this. What do we do? What are we planning on? I do know that you indicated, Kevin, that you had some bullishness and you had a beautiful chart with the RSI. You got it up right now. Let's talk about this. Let's get a little bit of hope in the for all the chads out there as well.
The hopium thing was which I guess I just kind of ruined the chart, but the one from before where I was talking about January, how we usually have, I don't know if I can get this back to what it was, kind of, yeah. So the hopium thing that I was talking about was that every January until like the all-time high, obviously, there's three. So 2015, January marks the yearly low. The next January is that year's low. The next January is that year's low. Just going over this because there's people that joined in late. And then if you go to the next cycle, January 2019 is the yearly low. And if you exclude the COVID wick, you can see there's like 3 Januaries in a row before the top. And here we have, we're currently on our 3rd January, which is a little bit of hopium for the idea that, well, 1, 2, 3 Januaries in a row, this January that we just had might be the yearly low, and we might be looking to trend up from here. But it's a very close call because of where the price is in terms of, like we're not that far away from support. So it's kind of a tough call there. Oh, this is the parabolic trend chart. I was going to go back to the weekly chart and then just look at it like this. One of the things that you'll notice is that every major part of the uptrend for Bitcoin, every major uptrend is marked by what? A weekly RSI breakout. And of course, I talked about this recently, and Bitcoin's price barely really budged, but people were like, oh, it failed. The weekly RSI failed. Kevin, you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, it might fail, but it certainly hasn't failed yet. We're still at a higher low trajectory. This current weekly, the RSI tick, right? If you look at the RSI, it's pointed down. It looks like a rejection. Though the this RSI print is less than 24 hours old, and this is one tick. So that RSI line right there is currently live and printing, which means that that RSI line is still up for debate on where is it actually going to close. Will it close here? Will it close like this? Will it close like this? That's still up for debate. We still have to get this print. So if Bitcoin bounces here, this could close at a weekly RSI breakout level like this. It would end up looking like that. And then it would mark just another RSI breakout, weekly RSI breakout. And it has been the signal that calls every major pump so far since the beginning of 2023. Well, really throughout Bitcoin history as well, but it's like a requirement for a major pump. And so we're very close. If this weekly can close up just a little bit more, the RSI will close in a breakout. Right now it's down, but that can change pretty quickly. So this is a signal that is still pending. The weekly closed on the RSI line, right? So it closed on it, right on that resistance right there. And you can see that this is we'll see where this actually closes. We have the entire week to see if it happens. And if it closes above that RSI resistance, I'm going to get very bullish on the market, and I'm going to, be looking for the next major leg up. And each one of these major legs up has very significant, percentage swings. I have it mapped out even better here on the Kraken chart. If you look, every major RSI breakout, 95%, 80% up, 73% up, the last one 100% up. I mean, these are big, big, big moves that take place after the weekly RSI gets that break. So this is certainly something to watch, and it's something that defines the trends. It's something that's been defining this cycle so far for Bitcoin, and we're really close to it. And if we do get it, just to spread a little bit of hopium, I don't know, maybe you need it. I have several targets. If we do get the next leg up, the 1618, the trap liquidity short squeeze, the monthly trap liquidity short squeeze target of 134,000, and then 138,400 is the upper fib. I just marked it, but something more in between 120, 134 is what I would be looking for on the next weekly RSI breakout, if we do in fact get it, which could be this week. It really depends. There's always a possibility that we have a slight dip first. So let's say we break the short-term structure and we come down a little bit. See these bars right here? We break the structure, we dip back to the lows, maybe even a lower low. Like, we actually see prices below that last low or something like that, right? Despite this noise in the short term, ultimately, when you look at it in the long term, we're pretty much right on track, perfectly aligned with the textbook parabolic trend setup. So despite the short term, even if Bitcoin came all the way down to, let's pull this line all the way to the parabolic trend line, even if Bitcoin came to like 83,500, it doesn't really change this picture. It doesn't. The parabola is still intact. I don't necessarily think we're going to come that low, but let me just drag that line back up into this zone. You can see everything is still in play with the parabolic trend. There has been no breakdown in price. We're actually just holding above our lows of 90. So this is very much what I'm looking for next, is the next parabolic advance, which could be anywhere up from 120, the 1618, to 134,000 is what I'm looking for on the next major leg up. And that would be where the trend becomes unsustainable. Well, in the definition of a parabola, it includes the phrase unsustainable. So parabolic trends are unsustainable trends. They are very bullish trends, but they're ultimately unsustainable. So that's something else to consider. That, yeah, this is a really bullish looking chart, a really bullish looking prediction, but at that point you would have to be a little cautious. Things would probably slow down after going from 15K to 130K or whatever. That's pretty that's a lot of gains for these institutions to be sitting on. I'm sure they're going to be interested in taking profit. So and at that point, that's when you may see kind of like a reversal at that point
So
break
you
the
know,
trend.
one of the viewers here is actually voicing something I think a lot of people are feeling, and I appreciate you voicing that, Steady Bug. The frustration about, you know, the macro. The macro definitely feels like it's going to be going up, right? And it's been a very frustrating midterm and near term because of, I think, all of the overwhelming bullishness speculation about the new administration. But what we're seeing with the new administration is while the regulatory framework is looking like it's shaping up to be more bullish, while it does look like institutions might, you know, they are still layering in quite wonderfully. We're getting all this sort of bullish news that implicates things in the future, not in this immediacy. But we are still seeing a bit of quantitative tightening. Is that going to ease? What's happening with the rate cuts, or actually the pause, or you know, what's happening with the strategic Bitcoin reserves, or now we're starting to see some of those, you know, the state level ones get declined or canceled for the near term, like Montana, like we saw with Wyoming. So where's the new money coming from? You know, do you feel like there's a possibility that although we're very macro bullish, that maybe we chop sideways and really just murder the hopes and dreams of everybody in the near term all the way through to potentially the end of summer, maybe into September of October? Or do you think potentially we're going to get to that peak fear, capitulation, loss of hope, and just kind of shoot out of nowhere, you know, with maybe a reverse decision coming from Powell and the Fed, and you know, sort of Treasury general account starting to see money pour into markets? Like, how do we make sense of this overwhelming bullishness while we're still seeing short-term just complete decimation of hope?
Well, if Elon gives us all $5,000 checks, then I think that there's going to be some manipulation to the upside before we get those checks, so that the money is exit liquidity.
But do you think? I mean, even if that were to happen, do you foresee that happening anytime this year?
It was kind of a joke, but
No, but even like, in my opinion, let's talk about that, because even if it were to happen, it's my estimation that it likely wouldn't happen anytime in the next 4 to 8 months. It seems like there would be a lot more cutting going on throughout the year, and that might be something that happens next year, which would then completely distort what the market cycle looks like on a time basis. Because we saw what happened with $1,200 coming in from stimulus last cycle, and that was at the beginning of, you know, the parabola. This time, I mean, that's a 4.16 multiplication of what that amount would be. Does that distort the, you know, the sort of the cycle shape on a time basis? I mean, I don't know. I think we have to look at the charts daily to really figure this out, because, you know, the other part of this is the economic impact. With Trump coming in office, he's done a lot of negotiation tactics with tariffs and different things that have kind of confused the general traditional market sentiment, that I think has put a little bit of a risk off mentality, or there's, you know, broader market manipulation in the face of that to take advantage of these prices before things run away. It's a very confusing market, I think, for even the best analyst or somebody just coming in expecting it just to go up. In reality, we're just seeing this persistence of chop, allowing people to continue to layer in on huge scales, because we are seeing whales take advantage of this price action while retail is fleeing. In fact, you can actually see it. Where's this chart at? This chart right here. I'm going to pull it up in just a moment. This chart right here from the apparent demand really just sort of diminishing down here. But we were seeing, you know, whales still stacking in on Ethereum and, you know, Aave and Chainlink. But there just seems to be this persistence of winter mute manipulation. And we saw a huge, I don't have the chart queued up, but a huge amount of selling pressure from Binance. At the same time, you're seeing market makers just having this huge amount of increase. So is this just a market maker's game right now, taking advantage of the confusion? Or, I mean, it does get frustrating.
I think a lot of the price action since the capitulation is kind of par for the course. A lot of this usually post capitulation. If you go back to August, let me go to a different chart just so I don't ruin this one. If you go back to August, back here, we came back down at the start of September and almost made a double bottom. You go to Ethereum, this actually made a double bottom at the start of September after having the capitulation in August. So this price action so far is really just par for the course. And I overlaid this structure and just put it over this one. Let me go to the daily time frame. Pretty much the same, right? So this isn't anything too surprising. We'll see if Ethereum can hold up. But I wanted to go to, I had this chart set up. Now this all got messed up. This is kind of to add on, or let me remove this a little bit, move this around, add to what Kevin was saying. So I did a few things here. This is the MicroStrategy chart. It obviously had a peak. I'm not sure if this is a top, but if you go back to last cycle, this topped about, oops, let me go to the weekly time frame. This topped about 39 weeks prior to Bitcoin's actual top, right? So MicroStrategy topped in February 2021. Bitcoin topped in November of 2021. So if we say MicroStrategy topped here back in November and put this out the same amount of time frame, 39 bars, 39 weeks, that would push this out to approximately the end of August, right? Early September, August. And then if you overlay these consolidation structures for the past 2 years, this was last year's consolidation structure right here, and this is 2023. This pretty much puts it on the same timetable. So if Bitcoin were to consolidate here into the summer, into June, into July, before making its move up, and then making that final step 4, I think it was called, Kevin, on the parabolic advance.
No, that would be the creation of base 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the
so
sell
this
point.
was so this structure, this ends up consolidating for that long, which obviously most people don't want to see. A lot of people, including myself, want to see like upside right now for Bitcoin. But if it ends up doing this, this would actually kind of line up with some sort of cycle top at that point, August, September, maybe October, in that time frame. So there's like a lot of confluence with that. But if we go back to you were discussing the QT and QE and the whole overall market situation. There's a few things you can look at. So this is the unemployment rate. You look at the unemployment rate currently ticking down. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. This has been going down a little bit here. So unemployment going down will decrease the odds of the Fed lowering the rates or doing QE of any sorts. And now if we go to the CPI, CPI has actually been ticking up a little bit here over the past few months since September. So CPI is going up. So that also incentivizes the Fed not to cut rates more and not do QE. So a lot of the conditions really right now are not too favorable for those types of, if you want QE to happen, if you want the rates to go down. Currently, based on unemployment and CPI, it's not as likely. The Fed would probably need something to break. And then lastly, if you go to, this is the Fed balance sheet. I'm not sure why it's not showing the whole screen. I'm not sure if you can move it over, Kelly. Yeah. Well, it goes down basically. You have most of the chart. If you go back to the 2017 cycle, I know a lot of people say that we absolutely need QE. We need new liquidity to pump the markets. But if you go back here, this was 2017. Right here, this is January 2nd. And this whole year, there was no QE. Bitcoin went up. Altcoins went up. Stock market went up. The risky stocks went up. Interest rates were going up. So none of the conditions were actually favorable for the stock market, for the crypto market, but everything went up. So the idea essentially that you need QE and you need money injected 100% to make things go up is just actually not true, because there's a large example right there. The whole year of 2017 proved it wrong. But obviously more money would be favorable, right? And we saw that last cycle. In 2020, we had this injection. This was around March, right? This was March of 2020. But if you even go back then, the Fed injected a lot of that money. But when did the crypto bull market really, really start, right? That year? It wasn't until November, December. I remember that whole summer during the 2020, a lot of people were like, oh, why isn't Bitcoin going up? Everything else is going up. The stock market is going up. Gold's going up. But Bitcoin was kind of stuck around $10,000 for a while that year. So just because they printed money didn't mean that the market just shot straight up. It essentially took almost 9 months to really start to make its move. And then Bitcoin made its move from about 10,000 to around 40,000 starting around November, December, January. So it's not as direct. I know like it makes sense, obviously, that more money means prices will go up, but it doesn't essentially mean that if they print off money tomorrow that it's going to go up. And it also doesn't mean that it needs it to happen, because we have a large sample size of 2017 where there was higher rates going up, no money printing, and everything went up. So it's definitely not direct. There's nothing that's 100% accurate or 100% needed. But the one common denominator between both those past two cycles was that there was no QT, and currently we have QT. This is the quantitative tightening. This is a reduction of the balance sheet. So the difference between the current situation essentially in the past two cycles is that there is QT. However, with that said, the Fed did release the minutes, I think, last week, and I don't remember exactly what they said, but they did hint at a few of the Fed representatives wanting QT to essentially end. So the process, I don't know the exact process, but I know it's they come to a decision at some point or they vote on it. So it's starting to get there. It's people are starting at the Fed starting to want to change the policy to NQD, but it might take a few months. So until that happens, we don't have the current conditions that we had in 2017 or 2021.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Go ahead, Kevin.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think another big thing is just like confidence. So like if Trump, plays out some of his policies and he unleashes unleashes the American economy, and then consumer confidence goes up. Consumer confidence has been, fairly correlated with Bitcoin's price. So I think if just confidence in general, if Trump can somehow make people feel confident, then that can also drive markets up, because confidence is really a big thing. When one of the examples that Matt just brought up, 2017, we had flat balance sheet, and the interest rates were actually going up. In 2017, Bitcoin's most epic bull market, interest rates were going up, right? And so but the thing is, people knew what the Fed was going to do. The Fed said what they were going to do, and then they did what they said they were going to do, and it was predictable. So if the Fed's predictability was high, and now the Fed's predictability is low. So that's sort of difficult to be confident about things when the Fed is not predictable or not very predictable. So yeah, I think confidence is a thing that can change the picture, obviously for both directions. But if Trump can make people more confident, consumers more confident, I think that could also support markets fairly well.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I think one of the issues this cycle is that there's a lot of people that came in after seeing people's gains the last two cycles, and even people that were in the last two cycles. There's a bit of an expectation surrounding alts. And a lot of people, not that they don't like Bitcoin, but a lot of people look at alts and they go, well, this is going to gain me more dollar value or more Bitcoin value by holding this, because smaller market caps are going to run. And we've seen sort of two round trips. We had two little mini bull market, bear markets and altcoins since February last year, where we ran up into March, had these highs, big sell off. And it's like, okay, no, it's going to rip again. And then it did rip again, but it was a lower high for most alts. And then this round trip back down. And then a lot of stuff is down anywhere from 50 to 80%. So there's this bear market vibe across the crypto ecosystem right now, while Bitcoin is actually still looking great on the macro, on the 3-day, 5-day, weekly charts. But you look at alts and you're like, I thought this was supposed to rip. I thought it was going to be alt season. Is there a scenario you think this time where we don't get that sort of general alt season where everything's just pumping? Is it kind of fragmented liquidity in the space right now because there's so much focus because of the capital channels that have gone into Bitcoin and the big market players? And then on the flip side, the altcoin degens, there's been a huge siphon where there has been money flowing into altcoins, but a lot of it's been siphoned into Solana and the meme coin rugs that have just sort of decimated hope there. And in addition to all that, we have one more huge catalyst that could be a big siphon on the market coming up, apparently, possibly this week, with that potential Kanye West coin drop, which we saw what happened when Trump launched. We saw what happened with Argentina launch. We saw what happened. And we're seeing all this liquidity get siphoned and then just decimated into Solana and the meme coin narrative. So there's kind of like that lack of certainty, even with degens, or lack of focused capital on utility. I mean, do you think that we'll get that focus of liquidity coming back to the utility plays in altcoins? What do you think, Matt? Because we have HBAR. They just saw Canary had an ETF file for HBAR. We have the XRP that's always in the news, got the major pump, but now trading sideways. Like, how do we make sense of this? Do you have any charts on HBAR or XRP, Matt?
Those, let me see. I did have some of these, like HBAR, for example. this one did look stronger for a while. Oops, I'm sharing the wrong screen. My bad. All right, there we go. This coin did look stronger, right, off of the November lows after breaking upward. Let me get off the log or get to log. This had moved up, but this kind of has broken down, kind of trending downward to this February low. So this structure, you'd want to see it break back upward. But I would say the real thing, which I discussed earlier, is Solana. Like you said, a lot of the Solana stuff drew most of the attention starting around a year ago. Around this time, that was when like WIF took off, and then the Pumped Out Fund got launched, and a lot of the meme craze took over about a year ago around this time. And that's also when a lot of altcoins started to behave differently. Prior to that, most of the market was generally going up from like November of 2023 till probably February of last year, March. And then around that time, things started to act different. And really since then, it hasn't been the same. I mean, we've had a few altcoins pump, but a lot of them have eventually given back those gains. And we're seeing that now with some of the ones that pumped hard off of the November lows. They're now starting to give up a lot of those gains. So there hasn't been anything really, except a few coins to kind of move up and then retain their gains. And I think it might just come down to Solana, coming down and then eventually finding a bottom at some point and then starting to move back up. But this chart is just showing that people are exiting Solana. People are starting to exit the meme coin casino. And it doesn't mean that it's over. It might actually come back. But I think the destruction from like Libra and all the meme coins that have launched and all the rugs have definitely hurt a lot of people. So people have kind of reached their breaking point with the memes. Most of the memes that are on Solana drop 99%. They pretty much lose all their value. And then a lot of the larger ones end up becoming rugs. So there's people that have been doing that for the past year that, chasing the new ones each week. And, after you take a bunch of 80, 90% losses, eventually you don't have anything left. And, the sentiment on Solana, the meme casino, is pretty bad right now. I'd say it's almost, I wouldn't say as bad as FTX, but there was like billions of dollars lost. So it's almost as large at this point. I mean, the Libra coin went from $5 billion to, 100 million or something. Obviously that's just the market cap. So the market cap was propped up. It didn't lose $5 billion of capital, but there was definitely hundreds of millions that were put into that coin that were essentially lost, or, people got rugged essentially. So there's been a lot of destruction, a lot of pain. And I think if people start to exit that, they might look for more, they might go back to what, people used to look for, which was more utility, less rugs, and what we pretty much saw before a year ago around this time. It was really just a year ago this essentially started. So I'm really just watching Solana, see if it comes down to that $100 price level. If it doesn't, maybe it ends up holding up here. Whenever it finds a bottom, I think the market will like that. I think a lot of people will feel more comfortable. But until then, it has to find a bottom at some point.
So then let me ask you then. So on that point, are you suggesting that Solana kind of has a bigger market driver for sentiment than Ethereum? Because typically a lot of people who watch Ethereum for that signal for the broader alt market. Do you feel like the attention's primarily on Solana now for that signal?
I mean, it's on both, but Solana has grabbed a lot of the attention over the past year. It has done really well, obviously. It had the gigantic move up during this time period. This pretty much topped, this was around March. So it had this huge move up. This was late 2023, has kind of chopped since. But Solana definitely has, been one of the larger market drivers. I think its market cap got up to around 80 billion or 90 billion approximately. So it's pretty sizable. It's not as big as Ethereum, but I think a lot of retail and newer people were going to Solana. I know I had like a lot of retail friends ask me about Solana over the past few months because they heard about it. I remember hearing around Christmas time, like kids were asking for Solana for their Christmas presents. Like, so Solana definitely reached a lot of a large audience, right? It definitely drew the retail attention. But the one thing I would say, so far that has been different, and I'm sure you guys can confirm it. The retail attention compared to like last cycle, if you look at like the largest YouTube channels and whatnot, like viewership is not even close. So we still haven't actually seen the actual retail return. And the question is, will retail actually return in size? I know it has returned with Solana, but it's not the same size. I think we would see a lot more viewerships and attention and social engagement, everything else that comes along with it when retail actually comes back in size. But we haven't seen that yet. So I'm not sure if they will though, right? You never know. Like there's anything's possible. Like people might not return to the space.
Oh,
People.
for sure. But I think
And another thing that's emerged too over the past few years, I'm just thinking about this in my head, is the sports gambling has become pretty popular now, and that only started. I think they legalized that around 2022, 2023, I think. And that a lot, and I have a lot of friends that do that too, and those were probably the same people that were doing crypto, like retail friends. So there's other ways to gamble your money or take on risk other than just crypto currently.
For sure.
Like
Two more charts
gambling.
I'd like to look at before we go. Either one of you, if you have anything that you've already done or you'd like to do live. XRP, of course, there's a huge mind share still on that after the major pump and now sideways action. Actually, three charts. HBAR, because, obviously we just in the news right now with the Canary application for the ETF. And then, of course, you were sharing some charts about a month ago, Matthew, on TAO, which we just saw obviously get listed on Coinbase. And so we saw a bit of a resurgence in price there where it's kind of hovering. So, maybe pull up those and then we can wrap it out.
I think we did HBAR before, so let me find TAO.
Yeah, also Litecoin looks like it might be.
Oh yeah,
up for
Litecoin
something
as well.
It
So
looks
you
like
do TAO, and then
Litecoin's
we'll have Kevin do Litecoin.
Yeah, so for TAO, this has moved up. Better structure than most alts, way above this wick low down here. Kind of making higher highs. So would really want to see TAO get above this area. This was the high before the breakdown. Oops. Let me get this one out. This is around approximately $514. If you look here, maybe it's making some sort of like head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders pattern. Came back up here and now comes back down. Look for something like that for TAO essentially. Maybe it forms a head and shoulders here. It might have to come back down to maybe this 340 area because that's where the left shoulder was. That's not a requirement though for head and shoulders, but it's always possible. But yeah, this looks like some sort of potential head and shoulders forming, and really the resistance area is around 514. You'd want to see it get through to really start to change the trend overall for it.
Yeah, and obviously we had a pretty big drain of confidence in the AI market with all the DeepSeek stuff, which I think now is sort of mitigated. But remember, everybody, with AI, we have the NVIDIA earnings, I think Wednesday, which could could have some impact in the crypto AI sort of sector. But I know, Kevin, you have I think you have the Litecoin chart ready. Yeah, there we go.
Well, they're not necessarily ready, but I did notice a couple things. So Litecoin in the shorter term was one of the coins that I noticed that appeared to be, setting up for something, right? If you look at the weekly chart, it kind of looks like it's squeezing up into the resistance. And you look at, the previous many years, this goes back to 2017. This zone right here has been fairly significant. Some resistance here, support around that range, a little bit of resistance here in that range. So we got above the what's it called? The first resistance, if you look down here, that zone, which was about 115. And now we're starting to chop right below this zone, right below 145. And on the monthly chart, you can see that Litecoin is now showing 4 green or positive MACDs in a row. So the bulls are gaining momentum here. The last time we saw this, or really the only time on this chart, on the Coinbase chart that we saw this, was once before, which was back in 2020, 4 nice green monthly histograms in a row that led up to the breakout. Right, so it was kind of like when we got to the 4th or 5th one is when things really started to break out. And all the price action that takes place above this zone is very fleeting. It's very brief. So it's more of a trade, it looks like to me. Like it looks like if it did break out, it'd be a very quick move, and it would just probably bleed out just based on market sentiment right now. But it's looking like it's possible. It's looking like we might get a nice, couple months to the upside, maybe like a 6 to 8 week pump if we break out. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, in the short term, you can see that the daily MACD is slightly nearing a cross down because of the overall market right now is not the best, but it's still elevated. It looks better than most coins here, right? It's sitting near the resistance, looks decent. And another one that I was looking at when a similar style setup is Monero, right? It's kind of like in the same class as Litecoin with the way that the chart has played out, where it breaks that resistance and it has this huge quick pump and then bleeds. And so, like in theory, I was just drawing this in theory, if it hit this upward sloping resistance line, which, who knows, right? In this market cycle, there's not all too much excitement or confidence. So I'm not sure if it's going to be able to pull off this traditional move, but it certainly is looking like it's going to start to revisit this zone. And so the areas for Monero that I'd be looking for, the targets are like 337 on the Kraken chart and then 422 on the Kraken chart. I'd be targeting weekly monthly candle body close zones as targets, because there's a lot of uncertainty on whether it's actually going to be able to play out, the things that have happened in 2017, 2021. It's unclear right now, but you could at least target the monthly candle body close zones, if not that upward sloping, or at the most the upward sloping resistance. So that's Monero and Litecoin. Monero's a little bit ahead of the game, ahead of Litecoin. Litecoin's still waiting on that signal, but you can see that it seems like they're just in a very similar class in terms of the behavior. That's Monero. That's Litecoin's almost like the same chart, So those are the two that I find interesting. Two legacy coins, both similar setups. Monero's already broken out. Litecoin's near a breakout. So, yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
interesting too.
all in
A
all,
lot of the
always,
setup is like
what'd you
similar to
say?
2017 too. No, I was saying a lot of the setup is similar to 2017 too. Bitcoin's chart, Ethereum. So it's interesting that a lot of the 2017 coins have the same setup essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, everybody, remember, we're still all of us are macro bullish, but in the interim, there's no telling what's going to happen because of everything going on. But this is why I'm staying prepared, because when the market moves, it happens very quickly. And that's why I just want to shout out, make sure you're following these individuals, Matthew Highland right here at Matthew Highland _. And of course, Mr. Kevin himself at Kevin Svensson, which is SVEN SON _. We've shared the links there in the live chat several times. Now, coming back over to the boys, yeah, always love having these conversations with you. All of us have slightly different lens on the market, and it's good to have that and hear different people's perspective and see different people's charts, because we can get too bullish and too bearish. And right now, I think it's time, I don't want to say to protect your assets, but don't get jumpy, because it feels like the market is trying to trigger us with very bullishness and then 3 days later, very bearishness. But I do think at some point in the next 6 months, we will see some of these things resolve to the upside. There's no telling when, because this market is, I feel for people getting in this market, this cycle. You are still ahead of the curve, but man, people are expecting just absolute moonshot every single day. If you imagine all the bullish news that's coming in as well, in previous cycles, everything would just be absolutely mooning, but the market caps are larger. There's also concern about, is there still an impending recession that could come or not? Is this absolutely going to boom? What's happening with the Fort Knox and gold? And is all this just a sham and they're just trying to chop everybody out? But that's sort of my thoughts. Matt, do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap this one out?
Nah, that's pretty much it. I would just say I think this week might be a little bit rough, but I think March will be a little bit better. But just try to make it through it, right? And also, like you said at the start of the stream, go outside, do things. If you're in the position where you don't have to watch the charts all day, I actually would suggest you don't. If
Yeah.
if you're like we watch the charts all day because people want us to give analysis. But if you're in a position where you don't have to stare at the charts all day, if your plan is to hold longer term, I don't think it benefits you to just stare at the charts all day. Just stare at each candle, being created. It's not beneficial. So, go outside. It will get better at some point, I believe.
I was just going to say that this cycle so far should be a really good lesson for everyone, that you shouldn't take gains for granted. When they show up, don't take them for granted. Take advantage of them, lock them in. It's not, some of these cycles in the past spoiled us. They made it seem so easy. The money came so easy. And, that was that era. Things are changing a little bit. Maybe it'll turn back into that at some point, but don't take gains for granted.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. It feels like we're way more emotionally charged than we normally are, just because of the underlying bullishness. But we have to let the market resolve itself that way. As a famous quote in investing, markets can remain irrational longer than most people can stay solvent. So don't chop yourself out. I'm just looking for every dip buying opportunity, and it drops further, and it's frustrating. But you know what? That's what markets do. Then you figure out how to mine some more fiat and get some more in the market, and just be patient, because I do believe that it's at some point this market is going to resolve to the upside. So with that being said, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button, ding the bell, and again, make sure you're following our boys here, Mr. Matthew Highland, which is at Matthew Highland _, as you can see here. And then of course, Kevin Svensson at Kevin Svensson _. And with that, that's all we got today, everybody. I'm going to redirect us off over to Jason Casper, because he's live. So go drop in there, everybody, when this redirects you there, and just say, what's up? The BitLab family's here. I love you guys. Hope you all have a wonderful day. And thank you so much to Matt and Kevin for dropping that OG Alpha. And that's all we got.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelly.